Hi, and welcome into another episode of AZEdit users video. I don't really know what to call it anymore, but 101 sure does sound good. My name's Rob, and this is video number two. Video number two in a series that I'm producing on the rabbit's hole of AZEdit. This is a config software for the RTS intercom, and if you don't know what that is, probably ought to just click next video because this is going to go deep into very interesting stuff, if you ask me. This is episode 2. If you haven't watched episode 1, go back and watch it. You'll learn some stuff. Alright, so we're going to be acting under some assumptions. These are the same assumptions in the first file, which is your intercom works and you have a good connection to it. We're not going into intercom commissioning or into connecting to your intercom. We are going to assume that you have these things down. Alright, so we're going to be learning from a file that's already existing. Alright, I think that the best way is to take someone else's work and examine it and then see what they did right, see why they did what they did. So we're going to save a file. Alright, we're going to save a file from a connected intercom. On the screen here you can see the green balls down here in the lower right, and you can see the connection socket is already been pushed together and we cannot push it again. So what I have here is a live intercom. What I want you to do is I want you to go to File and Save. We're going to take this file from the intercom and put it on our computer, and then we're going to open that file so that we're not making any changes. We're going to be looking at an offline, safe file that is not going to be wrecking any existing functioning system. And you can do this anywhere. You can save the file out of a production environment, and then you can take this home and cruise it and learn from it there. So here we go. We're going to press Save, and we're going to name it Rob's sample file for learning. I don't know. Alright, and save. We're going to, this is the question, do you want to stay online with the intercom, or do you want to enter file mode, editing the file you just saved? Now, let's say we're going to go do a show. We're going to continue working for the day. We're going to stay online and then press continue. Alright, this is being saved from the intercom to my laptop here. And then we're going to take this laptop home, and I'm still connected to the intercom, but we're going to act like you're not. So we're going to go to File, Open, and look, now it's going to say, it's going to say this for me, it may not say it for you. We're going to exit online mode and open a file. Alright, let's do that. Rob's sample file for learning. Do you want to check for duplicate alphas? Sure, because that is what this episode is about. Names. Alright, so notice I have the green balls flashing down here, and I have a connect button. You may have one of these, you may have neither of these, but we have opened a file, not connected to the intercom. So you can do this anywhere you want. Alright, so let's get into this. First thing I want to tell you about this intercom is this was a small show, a small truck, and things may not be done the way they're done in your big truck or studio or whatever. Don't worry about it. I'm going to explain the changes, the differences. Okay, so one thing about computers is you have to say what you mean and mean what you say. My dad always used to tell this joke about computers. Stupid computers, they always do what I tell them to instead of what I want them to. Well, yeah, Dad, that... okay, so, point being, about names. In the intercom specifically, names are important. I can't say CCU1 and see that in a programming window here on AZEdit and think that's the same thing as CAM1. CCU1 is not the same thing as CAM1. Those are different. Do not ever synonymize or equivocate or equals or assume that these things are the same. They're different. We only really have 4 characters to display our intentions here, so you may see very small differences like CAM versus CAMS versus CAML. All right, these are all very different things and they matter. So we're going to today learn about learning about a functioning intercom, and it's going to concentrate on names. Okay, back here on the software, in my opinion, this alphas key should be way over here because it is way more important. The alphas are what drives everything. So this is kind of funny. Also, this should say K alphas or KP alphas, because if you press this button, it's going to take you to alphas. Well, it's actually not, sorry. It's going to take you to ports. I was going to say KP names, but that would be misleading. So it's going to take you to ports. What a port is it's a physical hole on the back of the intercom where something connects to the intercom. It is independent of the purpose for which that audio may be used down the road. It is actually like a serialized unique identifier port for the intercom. So before these things are named, the default, they come up like this area here where it's N19, okay, or N20 or N25, all these, right? This is what it comes up as. I don't know why they chose N. I really wish they might have chose something like Z025, and I'll get into why that is later. But they chose these N025, and then we changed the names. Now, this port 1, I've done what I think is a best practice here, and that is gone through and entered a description, because this may not always be the producer's seat, but this wire is always connected to the front bench left seat KP panel. It might be the LD at some time. It might be something else, but this has been kind of double named, and this is important. Front bench left seat is where this wire goes from this port. In today's show, that's named prod or producer, and you can kind of get what happened here. Front bench left, front bench center, front bench right, producer, director, TD. And then the second bench left was the font coordinator, and the right seat was the font operator. Then in the third row, audio, he's in his own room back there. And then in the third bench, we had the bug and the tape op. All right? So, we have talked about naming these ports, or what these ports are named. If you were to click on the drop-down key right here, you would see that there's names or alphas for other things in here, like party lines, IFBs, IFB special lists, and kind of all the rest of those are, I'm going to call those a little bit more advanced. Once you know what those are, you'll know what the names mean and why you would use them. So let's just go to something simple like a party line. Oh, wait, before we do that, I want to tell you specifically in this truck, they used an ATM camera converter for their transport of their camera operator intercoms. And so this port is plugged into that camera converter, not directly, but whatever, and it's named ATM. Okay? ATM was the name of the camera converter, and this port has been named ATM. And another one to notice is this port has been named TIFF, or Tello, for Telos. These ports up here have been named IFW1. Well, I want to name that play-by-play. No, you don't. No, you don't. Slow down. The port is physically connected to something. We're going to name the function later, play by play. But right now, the port is named IFW1. And it will remain named IFW1, 2, 3, and 4 throughout the show. This is after the show was run, and this isn't like a truck base or anything like that. This is after the show was run, and it was recorded then. So I am never, ever going to name this IFW1 port play-by-play. That will come later. All right? This ATEM, no one's KP panel is going to have a button in it that's named ATEM. This is where names start to matter. Okay? No one's going to have a button that says ATEM. They're going to have a CAMS button. I'm going to show you how that works. So, back to the idea of names. Each one of these specific intercom logic functions has a name as well, because, as I said, this alpha is what shows up in KP panels. All right? So let's go to party line. Party line, they start named like this, PL19, PL18, 17, and then they're renamed for usefulness. All right? So PL number 1 has been named CAMS. CAMS is what I would put in someone's KP panel. All right? Or stage for stage manager. A2 is what I would put in for an audio assist, that they would have their own party line out there. Here's an example of a plug name. This did not get changed from the truck 0 to something else, stats or floor or live event producer or dimmer or whatever. This is a plug name right here. IO4 is a plug name that represents a party line. IO3 was changed to A2, and IO2 was changed to stage, and IO1 was changed to CAMS. Let's go back to the ports and look at what actually these ports were named. 2-wire 01, 2-wire 02, 2-wire 03, and 2-wire 04. These should have descriptions out there, but I guess I got lazy, and I didn't write those descriptions out there. So the port is named 2-wire 01. The party line is named CAMS. And if I was to go inspect this party line, you would see that, look at this. The camera converter is in that port. 2-wire 01 is in that port because this belt pack may have gone to a jib operator or something like that. And then here is a little bit of a problem, because this is what happens when you just reuse show files, reuse show files, reuse show files, instead of starting from a truck 0. Port 17, as you can see here, is in this, but it doesn't reportedly have anything connected to it. Let's go back to the ports and see. Port 17 isn't connected to anything. I bet I could go back to the intercom in the past and look in this truck and see nothing plugged into port 17. But maybe something was needed there. I call this rot, and this is what happens when you use old show files instead of truck 0s. Okay, so let's go back to party lines here. And just as a little bit of an aside, we're going to remove this port 17. Not a PL talker, not a PL listener. Now, this port 17 is not going to hear is no longer going to hear any traffic from this camera PL. When somebody presses down on their PL button for cams, port 17 was going to be making that noise. But now they're not. But wait, Rob, you forgot something. That's right. So we learned about the yellow line in the last episode of unsent changes. At this point, this port 17 would still be hearing this traffic until I either save or activate the changes. Don't care about it today, but it is a point that should be made. Intercom changes, most of them are have to be sent or saved. Saved to your computer file or sent to the running config file that is in the intercom. So I want to show you one more thing about, well, let's go to here to IFBs and show you that in this IFB1, which I have named play-by-play, let's go down here and go to IFB names. IFB1 has been named play-by-play. I told you that IW01, IFB Wetter 01 would never appear in a panel, but play-by-play does. So we can go to IFBs and we can see that IF Wetter 1 is used here in this section of the intercom, or in the construction of the IFB. This will be a different video. Don't even look at it. And then I want to go to somebody's panel, like the producer, and prove to you that play-by-play, color, spare, sideline are in this panel. This is what was run. And they are, IFB were named play-by-play, color, spare, and side. One pro tip I want to talk about next is the idea of TIFFs. This is going to speak about party lines and explain the difference, why you might want to use a party line instead of just putting a TIFF in here. Let's see what we did. We in the producers panel, it looks like this TIFF in this port was used as a point-to-point. Okay, so what I have done here is, if you'll remember, names, tello, is this telephone hybrid. All right, it's a telephone line. You might connect to master control or to some other outboard reporter or something like that. In this case, it was put in this port, in this panel, as a point-to-point. All right, what we could have done, and I bet this you'll see evidence of in this as well. Yep, here, NBC. Now, this NBC was the network that we were on, and let's go down here and actually we'll name a new one and we'll configure this. We'll name a new party line, and we're going to name it master control. All right, party line number 13, and party line number 13 is named master control. There are currently no talkers and listeners in here. Nothing talks and listens. And then we're going to make this TIFF number 1 a talker and a listener. Then we're going to go to KPs, and we're going to put a button over here, M space, let's do this wrong here, MC. I pressed tab and it told me the text entered is not a valid system alpha. So there's your little tip, is you need to name the port or the party line first. So we'll space M space C, enter, and it took it. Okay, and we're going to put an auto follow up here, and I'm going to describe to you the difference in between the function of this key and this key, because I think you're probably bored with names right now. Okay, so this key would be a point-to-point connection in between the telephone line and the producer, and no one else can really interrupt in that or contribute to that conversation in any meaningful way, because if they talk to the telephone line, then the producer doesn't hear them do that talking, and if they talk to the producer, then the telephone line doesn't hear them doing that talking. But if I make a party line here, like I did in master control, and I give this button to the producer, then they have, instead of doing a point-to-point conversation, they have entered into a conversation with only two participants. The producer, because he's up and down on that button, and the telephone, because they are a named talker and listener in that party line. Now, this is a circle which other participants can join and hear the talking from both sides. If the producer talks, they hear it. If the telephone line talks, they hear it. So in this way, a party line has been created and invited other people to participate at will. We've not made anybody participate, but the talking circle has been created instead of a point-to-point, which can only be misunderstood, I promise you. Hope that made sense. Okay, so one thing I want to invite you to do while you are learning about your intercom file is I want to invite you to print. This can add a good offline type of reference, in your hand type reference to what these things are named, and so you don't guess and screw it up. So I'm going to go to the alphas page for the ports, and I'm going to press File, Print. And it invites me immediately to print this document. It didn't ask me anything about what you want to do, so I can promise you I'm not going to go through it and show you the PDF. But what happens is you will print a PDF or you will print a paper copy of this list of ports. You can do that for any of these other lists of ports. You can also do that for a KP. So if I do that here, I think this is a little less useful when you're like trying to learn and to reference, but I want to show you how this works anyways. This is going to, when you press print, I want to print the producers panel. I could choose all of them, but I'm going to, it's actually a setup page report that I want to print, and I'm going to print it to that, and I'm going to name it sample printout. Of course I want to rename it, and then let's go look at that document. Sample printout, what does that look like? So this is a one-page document, although other pages are listed on it. We have a setup page 1, setup page 2, setup page 3, and setup page 4. This KP panel does not have any other pages in it, so all of the traffic is up here. And what you're looking at the what's populated in the listen key, the talk level 1, the talk level 2, and the key label. Alright, so the listen key is obvious, AF, 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 and talk level 1 matches what we saw down here. And this is just a printed out version of the KP panel. So I'm going to go back to the KP panel. Alright, so talk level 1, we could stack a key in here, which is a popular technique, but I don't think it's very commonly the best practice. Of course it is needed, or else they wouldn't have it, but there's usually a better way to do that. But this is the next thing I want to talk about, and then one more idea, and then we'll wrap up. This tape operator is showing up in this KP as Kim. And it's not showing up probably or necessarily anywhere else in the truck as Kim. Okay? So everybody else is seeing tape. But this key label is an opportunity to add some personalization to someone's panel. I would, and then you can see these other key labels that are kind of grayed out. They are not taking any specific name, but Kim is. And I want to pitch the idea of not using key labels unless you need to. Okay, so if I go, let's choose an example here. The director. If I go back, and let's see, the director's in probably a number of people's panels. It's probably in Tape's panel. Yep, there he is as director. If he, the video operator, yep, he's there as director. Okay. Now, what if I wanted to change his name to Tom? I could go through all these panels and change it to Tom. If somebody comes to and talks about their misbehaving key and they start talking about a Tom key, you're like, oh, I don't remember who Tom is. Who's Tom? I don't know. The key just says Tom. Well, you start looking through your alphas and nothing says Tom. You're kind of lost. And it can make a lot more work. Now, what I would propose that you do is go to alphas and go to the director and name him Tom. Tom. Now let's go back to the producers or the directors tapes panel. Oh look, tapes panel is even named Tom. Let's go to the video operators. His name is Tom with a Tom label. Let's just get rid of that because we no longer need it. It's wrong if you ask me. The producers panel, his directors, oh where is it? There it is, it's Tom. And if you need to go looking for this thing, you can go find a problem that says Tom. Alright, so I would really say you can name the director Tom in a KP label if you need to, if that's the best thing in the situation. But consider going back to the alphas table and relabeling that guy Tom instead of the director. So I think that's all the time we have for today. Hopefully this has been informative, and hopefully you're keeping safe out there in these troubled times.